What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the training arc. You might notice it's just me today, just flying solo. We have another filler episode for you, and I promise this will not be a super regular thing. Colby and I definitely want to be doing this together. That's the whole point. But Colby's got his hands full this week. He is out doing some very important PhD things, and so I got to hold down the fort. So here we are. This is filler episode number 2. And today I kind of just want to dive a little bit deeper into something that I mentioned a bit in a recent episode where we talked about my bodybuilding prep and, just everything, how it went, the recap, the lessons learned, etc. And I wanted to dive more deeply into this idea of, what I sort of described as this is just what I'm doing. Like that was the mindset that really drove the entire thing. And I want to get a little bit deeper into that because I think there's more nuance there. I think that there is something that is there's more to uncover, more to explore that I think would be helpful, and just to help explain that a little bit more. So to me, what does that mean? That this is just what I'm doing. To me, what that means is less thought, more action, right? Less pushback, less second guessing, less self-sabotage. That's really what it's all about. Any really difficult goal, no matter what it is, whether it's a diet, training related stuff, or academia, career, relationships, anything, right? Anything, it all is difficult, right? Or it can be. And, most things that are really worthwhile are very difficult. And the key to success, I think, is to keep showing up. And when it gets the most difficult is when you still show up. And figuring out how to get ourselves to do that is very, very important. And sometimes, in some situations, the answer to that can be don't think so much, right? Which it sounds a little bit backwards, sometimes a little bit counterintuitive, because there is so much adjusting that needs to happen that really can only happen if you reflect and you think and you pay attention. But if we do too much of that, then we can start to self-sabotage a bit. And that is, man, in my coaching, like that's one of the number one things that I work with people to try to stop doing, is to stop sabotaging yourself, right? We all of us, and I'm no exception to this, all of us have such a ingrained from childhood, we become teenagers, adults, and we just have this ingrained pattern of sabotaging ourselves and getting in our own way. And it really can do exactly that, right? It gets in the way. It stops us from achieving the goal, whatever it is. And so that's such a key, is to figure out, how do I stop sabotaging myself? And this is one of the things that I've learned works for me. Different people are going to be different. Some people work very, very well under a reward system. If I do this, then I get this thing. I get this reward. And maybe it's, I accomplish this task, I work for this long, I do whatever, then I can go out and get a coffee, or I can go out to dinner, or I can play video games for an hour, or I can play video games for an entire day, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, right? Just some sort of reward system. Other people, it's more of a punishment system. If I don't do this thing, I can't do that thing. If I don't get this done, I can't play video games. If I don't, you get what I'm saying, right? So different people work on different systems. And it's important to explore those things and to experiment and just try different stuff, see what fits you. Everyone's going to be different. For me, one of the things I've really noticed, of several things, there's several things that I use for myself depending on the situation. One of them is this mindset where I'm just not really going to think about it that much. This is what I'm doing. I'm just going to go. And what that has meant is that during this diet, during this contest prep, when I was very tired and when I was very busy and I did not want to go to the gym to train for an hour and a half and then do an hour of cardio and then come back home and shower and eat dinner, and it's like my day is half as long as it normally is, right? That I have to, just because of the sheer amount of time that goes into the prep stuff, I had to do it. If I wanted to accomplish the goal, I had to get those things done. I had to check the boxes. So this is just what I'm doing was a way for me to not make excuses. It's a way for me to not come up with very reasonable and logical arguments and reasons to not go spend 4 hours doing bodybuilding stuff today because I have this important project that has to get done. And Are there cons to it? Certainly, right? There's a give and take to everything. And one of the cons to this was that it meant the thing that got pushed a lot was sleep, because work stuff still has to get done. You know what I mean? So sleep got sacrificed pretty regularly, and unfortunately, social life things and time spent with my girlfriend got sacrificed a bit. Um, I tried my best not to sacrifice those things, but they did happen a little bit. And I think that, um, being completely honest with myself, completely transparent, I think there was certainly times where, although I didn't sacrifice the time spent together, the quality of that time did decrease. And that's not ideal either, right? So that's something that for me, reflecting back now after the fact, that's something I can work on, something I can improve in the future. But nonetheless, there are certainly pros and cons to every approach. So I think that's something to be very, very wary of. But for this, what this again allowed me to do is to check my boxes very consistently. This allowed me to not really realize how tired and hungry and just exhausted of prep that I was. It helped me not realize how much I really did not want to do posing practice today, because it's just what I'm doing, right? This is just reality. This is just what is happening. There's no reason, it's not about whether or not I want to do it. It's not about if I'm in the mood. It's not about if I have the energy. This is just what I'm doing. And I think that helped a lot, but it only worked because I truly trusted the process. And I think that is an absolute key for this. You have to have a great deal of trust and faith in the process. Otherwise, you're going to work against it, right? You're going to be like, wait, this doesn't make sense. I can't just do this, right? Like it's got to make sense. We have to, in order to truly embrace this mindset, you have to set things up in a way that you're not going to fight against it. You're not going to have these thoughts and these feelings emerge that then take root. And you're like, actually, that does make sense. All this cardio that I'm doing is stupid. We should do something else. And, everything falls apart. So for me, what did that mean? Well, it's making sure I have a great coach. For me, that's Ryan Doris, and he is the perfect coach for me, right? For me personally. Various coaches out there all have different styles. Some styles are not going to mesh with every client, so on and so forth, right? So it's important to do your research, look into different people, see who seems to vibe with you, right? And in general, you want to make sure that they are at least vaguely aware of the best practices and taking some of the research findings that we've gotten, taking all their experience as a practitioner, combining those things, working with the client, a very individualized approach, getting your feedback, what you think matters, right? That should be factored in, making sure that they do all those things, and that at the end of the day that they're just a good person, because that will guide so much of the decision making that they do. Beyond that, looking for personal things that will click with you. For me, Ryan is perfect for me because he is so good at pushing some of my motivational buttons and at pushing some of the buttons that have just helped me relax so much over the years, right? I've worked with him for a very long time. We had a break in the middle, and then now I've worked with him again for almost a year again now. And so coming to this bodybuilding season, like I know the research, right? I know how to do it. I coach. I know how to do all this stuff. I know the X's and O's. What I need is somebody to guide the psychological aspect as I get less and less objective with myself as the diet goes on. That's the biggest thing. Early on working with him, what I really needed was somebody to help calm the storm in my brain, right? Like there's just so much stuff swirling around, and I think Ryan is so good at taking these really complex ideas and these interwoven ideas and distilling it down and just saying, like, we got all this stuff, but dude, this is what matters. This is what I need you to do. And he's got an amazing track record, right? Like he's got all the things that make me trust him in his process. So that helps immensely, because I know that I'm not going to fight and try to sabotage the process, because I trust that it is in fact what's going to get me to the goal in the best, most efficient, most fulfilling way. Because that's another big thing about Ryan. He's really, really good. He taught me so much about seeking depth through the process, about learning about myself and about life through bodybuilding. And that's what I love bodybuilding for. That's why I do it. And so I know all that stuff is there. Otherwise, outside of that, I think the other aspect that's crucial for this mindset to work is that you need to set up some systems that will allow you to be successful to avoid some of that internal pushback that can happen. So for example, right? My example, I had a lot of posing practice. I had a lot of cardio every day. I had trained 5 days a week, right? There's a lot of stuff. So I had to try to shift around some other schedule things. It was very important, especially as the diet went on, the leaner I got. It was important for me to try to plan my day so that I could have breakfast at a certain time, get to the gym a certain proximity to after eating my breakfast within an hour or two, so that I'm not super tired again, tired and hungry and all these things, right? I'm fed, I'm fueled, I have the energy to go train. While I'm at the gym, I'm just going to do my cardio right after that because I'm already there. I'm not making multiple trips. I already know that's just not realistic for me. And then I can come home, shower, eat again, and then I'm okay the rest of the day. But setting up that system is so important because if I don't go to the gym earlier on in the day, the more time that passes, the less likely I am to go do all the stuff I got to do. Why is that? Work stuff starts to pile up. I start to be like, man, I got to get this done. I can't go to the gym right now. I got to finish what I'm working on. That starts, you just keep doing, okay, one more thing, one more email. Let me adjust this post one more time. Let me edit this video. It just all builds and builds and builds. You start coming up with more and more reasons to not go out and do your cardio. You start coming up with more reasons to not do the posing practice. My posing is solid, right? I feel good about it. I don't have to do it today. If I miss one session, what's the big deal, right? I have too much stuff on my plate that I got to do. Right? We got to make sure that it gets done right away before those excuses start to come up. At least for me. Other people, maybe saving things later in the day is the key. Maybe you find that your brain, your workflow is the most productive first thing in the morning. Then do that, and then you can train later, right? So again, it's very individual, but it's important to set those things up. I am very grateful. I am very fortunate that I have the privilege of a lot of control over my schedule. There are things that have to be done by certain deadlines on certain days, of course, but I do have a lot of flexibility in terms of what time of the day I do those things. So that has helped me a lot. I am very conscious of the fact that not very many people are lucky enough to have that, right? So you might have certain constraints around what time you have to be at work, what time you get off work, what time is your lunch break, right? All of that stuff is important to keep in mind. What constraints, what framework are you working with? And then from there, do the best you can to set up these systems that will make things as smooth and as seamless as they can be within those constraints. So maybe that means you set yourself up so that you can go train and do your cardio and stuff right after work because you just can't get up early enough to do it before. That's not realistic for you. You got to do it after. Maybe you find you're too tired to do it after work and you just have to go do it before. Otherwise, it's not going to get done. Not ideal, but I'm working within the constraints that I have. Maybe you set things up so that your most strenuous sessions are done on your days off from work. And then your days where you have to go to the gym on work days, making sure that those are easier so that it's just more manageable as a whole. Maybe it's worth investing in some sort of cardio equipment that you can keep in your house or your apartment or whatever, whether it's a bike, a treadmill, elliptical, a little walking pad to have with your desk, whatever it is. Maybe it's worth investing in something like that because it makes everything in your life and your schedule more easy. You don't have to go to the gym to take dedicated time to go do cardio. That's something that I tried to do. But of course, the intensity of that is very low with a walking pad, right? Trying to walk while doing work, the speed has to be low. Otherwise, you just can't really do it. And the amount of time I would have to do that is just sort of ridiculous. And it's much more, it just makes more sense to go to the gym and do more strenuous cardio for me, right? So again, it just depends so much on your situation, so much on what you need to do to lose the weight that you need to lose, and what constraints, what framework that you are working with, trying to make the systems fit as best you can within and around all of those things. Then we've done that, right? We've set the groundwork down. We know that we trust the process. We're working with a coach, or if you're self-coached too, right? Just making sure that you know what you're doing. You're trusting the process very much. We have that in place. We set up these systems, and the systems are going to change over time as your prep goes along, or just your diet in general, or whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be a prep, it can be anything. But as the situation changes over time, maybe you have to decrease your macros. Maybe you have to do more cardio. Maybe you have a change in your work schedule. You have to work more days per week or longer hours, or less days per week, less hours, or you have new responsibilities come up. Whatever, the situation changes. You're going to have to reassess every time that happens. What do I need to do to change the system to keep things in a place where it allows me to be successful, allows things to be as smooth as they can possibly be, to decrease the chance that I'm going to have to come up with all these self-sabotaging excuses, reasons, etc., that I'm going to have to try to squash and whatever, right? Again, we don't want too much of that thinking. We want to just focus on the action. Other than that, I think it's important as you're going day to day to make sure that you're doubling down on prioritizing and trying to avoid procrastinating on things. I recently had the chance to talk to a fantasy author that I've recently become a massive fan of, and her name is Janny Wirtz. And we were talking about all sorts of things. We were talking about creativity. We were talking about, doing creative work. And one of the things that she said was she views procrastination as a sort of dissonance of value, right? Of that you're procrastinating because you're not valuing the thing that you need to do as highly as you should, or as highly as you maybe need to in order to achieve the ultimate goal, right? So to me, that really rings true, right? I'm procrastinating doing this cardio. It's because I don't truly believe in my heart and soul that is necessary. It's a part of the process. It will get me to the thing that I really want. So I want to do that thing. I value it highly. I'm going to go do it. I'm not going to keep pushing it away. That's silly. Why would I push away the thing that is going to get me to my ultimate goal? That's the thing I should value the most. I should prioritize it. I should do it. And so I think that really rung true to me, and that really, really hit home. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and hopefully you find that helpful, at least to some extent, that when you find yourself procrastinating, that is a alarm that should be going off in your head. We should think about, okay, well, why am I procrastinating? Why am I not valuing that thing? Does it truly not deserve a high level of value? Is it really not that important? If that's the case, cool, right? But if you actually do think about it, and it is something that deserves a very, very high value, we need to change how we're thinking about that, right? We need to realize this is super important. Maybe I don't enjoy it a ton in the moment, but the thing that it gets me is so worth it and so valuable and so important to me. Therefore, that thing becomes important to me, and I'm going to go make sure it gets done with a high degree of quality, right? So I think that day to day, we're going to have to remind ourselves of those sorts of things, because things are just going to come up. We're human, right? We're going to not want to do certain things. We're going to get busy. We're going to get distracted. We're going to procrastinate. But reminding ourselves of the value system of what truly is a high priority, not just what do I want to do right now, but what is truly the highest priority for the total net balance of achieving the thing that you have set out to achieve, achieving the thing that you have a conviction that you want to do, right? Now, the downside of this process, and this can take you a long way in my experience, man. I mean, it can really be powerful to really embrace everything that strongly, right? The downside is that you are embracing everything that strongly. It's sort of a double-edged sword, that you can get distracted. You can get so deep in that tunnel vision, you're not seeing anything else, which can be helpful for achieving that goal. But what's very important about anything that we're doing is that we don't want to lose sight of the things that are also very, very important to us, right? I think it's a lesson we can learn from Griffith, from Berserk. If you know, you know, right? We want to make sure that we are not going too far with our goals. We want to make sure that we're not losing sight of the things that truly matter. I mentioned this earlier in this video, right? That for me, I did find myself sometimes losing the quality of the time spent with other people. I was distracted. I was tired. I wasn't really there. I wasn't really engaged. I wasn't really connected. And other people can feel that, right? And it's not a good feeling. None of us like that, right? We want people to be there engaged with us. And so that was something that I could have done a better job of. And now in hindsight, I know that, I realize that, and I can work on that in the future. This kind of stuff can happen to various degrees. If you're not very careful, bodybuilding can in fact become very self-absorbed, and it can really, really damage your relationships with other people, especially, but it can damage your productivity at work, and it can damage all sorts of things. We have to make sure that we're not completely losing sight of those things, despite this mindset that we're trying to cultivate of this is just what I'm doing. This is my reality. And so I think it's important to purposefully set aside times of reflection where you're going to take a step aside from this tunnel vision that we might have gotten into and say, okay, let me step back and try to assess how everything is going. Is everything okay? Are all the things that I care about, all the aspects of my life, are all these things in a place that I'm satisfied with truly, deep down? If so, awesome. We can keep doing our thing. Maybe there's some areas we can keep working on or whatever, but we can keep doing our thing. If something is suffering, it's not what you want, we need to work on that, right? It's an opportunity for improvement. And that's like, dude, that is the beauty of a bodybuilding prep, right? That's the beauty of a long diet. That's the beauty of any challenge, is it shows you these weak points. It shows you these areas, these opportunities where you can grow and you can work on things. The only way that you see an opportunity for growth is that it's not how you want it to be, and it feels bad for a second, but we can take it and turn it into a very optimistic and a very good thing, and say like, okay, well, that's kind of nice that I see this thing that's not so great. Now I can improve it. Now I can work forward. But it's so easy to overlook it. And we have to, at least for me, at least I had to do this, and I think a lot of other people will, purposefully set aside time to reflect. Because the busier you are, dude, you're just not really going to do it. You're just not going to think about it that much. For me, I literally made a reminder in my phone that would pop up every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Reflect on the past week, right? So just literally making a reminder. It can be so powerful, and taking that time to really set aside and think about all these aspects of your life. Are they in a good place, or are they not? And do I need to work on it? And it can be other things too, right? It can be about the prep itself, because again, bodybuilding prep is there's such a, or the diet in general, the goal, whatever we're doing, whatever pursuit, it's so important to auto-regulate along the way, right? Situations change over time. You got a bad night of sleep 5 days in a row. You got, all kinds of stuff can happen that we need to make little adjustments to. And if we're too tunnel vision, we're too locked into the process, we're too locked in to just don't think, just do, we can miss opportunities where we really need to make an adjustment, and we're going to crash and burn if I don't change something. But if I'm just too bullheaded, I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to make that adjustment, and I am going to run into a wall. We don't want that. We don't want to make adjustments that don't need to be made, but if they need to be made, we got to do it, right? So it's a difficult balance. I think it's important to try to get into that space where we're trusting the process, executing the plan, and just doing it at a certain, in a bodybuilding prep, as the example, there are going to be days where you're really tired and you're underfed and you feel so just lethargic and depleted. And it would be nice to auto-regulate and eat more and do less cardio, but that's just not what you're able to do. You got to do it anyway, right? So there's certainly times where you would like to auto-regulate, but the overall goal does not demand that. Otherwise, though, if the goal does demand it, it does make sense, you are able to do it, then we do want to be able to do it, but it's easy to get distracted and miss it if we don't take that time to reflect. So make sure that you do that. That's super, super important. And then as we continue through, we're going through this process, we're navigating, we reach the end goal. We reach the moment at the end. Now it's vital, in my opinion, to turn off that mindset that we've been doing this whole time. We need to be present. We need to be fully engaged with the moment, right? For me, it was when I was on stage. I wanted to soak it in. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy it. If I was just so locked into, okay, they say this pose, I do that, right? Next pose, and then I get off stage and I'm done. You miss it, right? You like, that was your chance, dude. You did this for so long. You dieted for 7 months, and that was your, 2 minutes that you're on stage, and you just didn't pay attention to it, right? Have fun, enjoy it. Whatever the goal is, it doesn't matter, right? Whatever that end goal, the destination, we want to make sure that we enjoy that. And so I think it's important to very purposefully do that, and make sure that you are really present, really soaking it in, really celebrating all that work that you did. After that, we can do all the reflecting, we can do all the sigh of relief, we can do some relaxing, all those things. That's super important to do. the more ambitious that you are as a person, the easier it is to not do those things and just say, okay, what's next, right? What's the next goal? What's the next step? What can I do after this? That's awesome. I think that's important if you're trying to take something as far as you can, or you're trying to be as, however you define success, if you're trying to be as successful as you can possibly be, those sorts of things. But I think that the best balance in terms of the overall quality of your life, your overall happiness and fulfillment through what you're doing, you got to take little pockets at least to really sit back and enjoy and be proud of what you did, and reflect and learn about, what did you do well? What did you not do so well? What could you take moving forward? What can you improve for next time? All those things. So we got to take a little, we got to come up for air, right? And think about all those things, reflect on all those things, be very present with all those things, celebrate, be happy. You did an awesome thing. That's amazing. Now, when it does come time to shift gears towards the next goal, we got to do the process over, right? What is the process for that goal? Making sure that I have a good plan, that it's very solid, that I trust it, I believe in it. I have true faith in this process. I know it's going to get me to this new destination that I want to go to. There's no other option. If I follow the process, it will get me there. I know it, right? That's what we want. Then we set up the systems, and then we just do it, right? And we go through the whole process again. And I think that this can help immensely. And I'm so grateful to Bodybuilding Prep here this past year for teaching me this lesson. And I think it's something that we can move in and out of. I think it's something that doesn't have to be as extreme as it is during a bodybuilding prep. I think we can sort of increase and decrease the magnitude of the severity of this mindset. I don't think it's super healthy to always be tunnel visioned on something all the time. I don't think that's at least not for me. Some people, maybe that's the best thing for them. I don't, who am I to say that? But at least for me, not the best to have it all the time, but to have some degree of this, I think is very helpful to be moving towards the things that I want in my life, So anyway, I think that mindset was the single biggest key to success, to making it through the bodybuilding prep, to getting to stage with a package I was happy with, and to feeling very fulfilled through the process, to learning so much about myself, so many valuable things, including this thing I talked about today. So much from that, right? And then as I transitioned after the show, that this same mindset again, I think is what has really helped me control that transition, control that rebound, but not feel super constricted, right? Like I don't feel like I'm just white knuckling my way through this and just like, oh, I have to do the reverse diet. Whatever, it doesn't feel like that at all. I feel free. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. That's the goal, right? We've been so restricted and so controlled for so long. A feeling of freedom is very important, but of course we can take that way too far and gain 25 pounds in 2 weeks, right? That's not healthy either. So for me, what is the process of this recovery phase? Outlining that process specifically, right? What is the goal of the recovery phase? Well, I do need to gain some weight. I do need to relax a little bit. I do need to take a little bit break from tracking. I do need to do less cardio. I need to be a normal human being. I need to be more present with my girlfriend and my friends and my family. All of those, those are the goals, right? The goal isn't recovery phase of bodybuilding. That's so nebulous, right? Outline the specific goals. Those are the goals. What is the process that will allow me to do those things while still having one of those goals being, I don't want to gain 20 pounds in the next 2 weeks. That feels horrible, right? Physically, it feels horrible. Mentally, it feels even worse. I have been there. I've done that. It's absolutely horrible, right? I don't want to do it again. Some people, it doesn't bother them. Awesome, right? Do your thing. But for me, that's one of my goals, is to make sure that I don't just blow up like a whale and feel horrible about myself, torpedo my mental health, right? It's not worth it. So I have all of these goals, right? So then it's about outlining the process, what allows me to eat a little bit more, track a little bit less, do a little bit less cardio, train really hard, have an awesome time, have a bunch of fun with my girlfriend and my family and my friends, keep my body in a place that feels good. I know I need to gain some weight. I want to gain some weight, right? But I don't need to gain 20 pounds. I can gain 5 or 10 pounds, whatever. We're outlining this process. We're outlining the goals. Then that's just what I'm doing. And I embrace that whole mindset again with this different goal, this different direction that I'm headed towards, with my purposeful reflection that's built in, that now is much easier because I don't have quite as severe of tunnel vision as I did during the prep, right? That's just more flexible because of the nature of the goal and the process at this moment. So I think that's been a huge key to now. I'm sitting here 2.5 weeks after the end of my contest season, and I have not binged one time. I am currently 6 pounds above stage weight. And I feel way better, right? Physically, mentally, I feel so much better already than I did towards the end of that prep. And that's been reflected in the feedback I've gotten from my girlfriend, for example, right? She can feel that I am more present and that I'm more there with her, right? And that's so important to me. And that's amazing. And that reflection, that feedback is showing me that this is going pretty well, right? The process is indeed leading me where I want to be. Things are going well. Are things going to change at some point? Yeah, of course they are, right? And I'm going to have to reassess, put different systems in place that help work with those constraints that have changed and become the new constraints I'm working with, and so on and so forth. So there you go, right? I think that has been such a huge key. I'm so happy with that lesson from this whole process, and I hope that helps some of you guys, and you can take something away. And even if you don't do the exact same thing that I've done, maybe you can take at least a little piece of it out, and it helps things to just feel a little bit more organized, a little bit less likely to self-sabotage, and a little bit more likely to achieve those goals that you are after. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for the support for this podcast so far. I mean, Colby and I have both been any messages that we get about people enjoying listening to us ramble about whatever. It's so nice, man. It's so nice. We really, really appreciate it. Everybody who listens or watches the YouTube version or checks out the clips on Instagram or whatever, whether or not you let us know personally that you like it, we very much appreciate the support nonetheless. And if you do like this stuff, you post it on in your Instagram, man. Put it on your story, tag us. Like, we'll always repost it. We'll always talk back to you. And the community is such a huge thing for us in this, right? We want to make sure that we're building a community and just having a good time and talking to you guys. And connection is such a huge thing for not just with a goal for the training arc, but just in life, right? So yeah, that's all I got. That's this filler episode. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.